Seeing screens moving around, here we go. Welcome to everyone, all 1,582 of you who have registered so far and will be joining us either live now or in the future. So welcome in the future. We are going to be doing an integration of aromatherapy with meditation practices of various types. So you would like to have your essential oils easily available. And you have your choice in a few different methods of how you can use the oils. Because we're going to be sampling a number of oils, we don't want to overdo it. So one method, the ideal method, if you happen to have perfume strips, that is the ideal method. A lot of people do not, and so the next best method would be to just inhale something directly from the bottle. And then the next method will be to actually put a drop on fingertips to smell directly and anoint yourself with. We will be doing some practices using that method. And then we will also be talking about how to anoint ourselves, where and for what purpose. But the main thing is that since we're doing a lot of practices and using a lot of different oils, we don't want to overdo it. We don't want to get to the end of our presentation here and feel like we gave ourselves headaches from too much. So we're going to be doing micro dosing of aromatherapy. And really, we're not going for the aromatherapy part of this. Really, what we are doing is we are using fragrance to enhance our practice. And we're going to be doing internal practices. This is the meaning of ceremony in the classical tantric translation, that we're actually going to be doing things inside the container of the body. And so these are internal ceremonies. These are alchemical rituals that we are going to be doing. And the role of fragrance is that we can integrate it and use it in many different ways, actually, that many of you already know that I have been teaching for some time. And these are basically ways of using our olfactory sense. Now, in spiritual practices, forever, all of the five senses have been used to support the mind, the meditative states, the relaxation states, the states of increased awareness. All of the senses are used in various ways. So we find in yoga, for example, that asanas, the physical postures, is one sense, touch, activity, movement, posture. This is using one of the senses to support meditation. Or sound, hearing. This is music, mantra, ceremonial instruments, things like that, drumming, okay? Or taste. This would be various herbs, foods, things used in conjunction with spiritual practices. Or lack of taste, fasting. And then sight. There is visualization, that's inner sight and outer sight, visualization, sacred art, tankas, mandalas, all these kind of things. And so these are four of the senses that have always been used as part of spiritual practice. So what we are exploring today is the use of fragrance to support our meditative states. And actually, out of all of the senses, it is the sense of smell, the olfactory sense, that has the most direct and immediate powers on the brain and on our meditative state. So it's a very natural way to deepen our awareness. But we can also use the power of fragrance for very specific things. We can study the power of sunlight, for example, that is in a spicy essential oil. We can use the grounding, earthy, rooty fragrance of something like vetiver for helping us to study the earth element in the body. So there's many ways that we can use essential oils to support our meditation. And so the main thing to remember is that fragrance works directly on our brain, and it is a direct support of our meditative practices. But they are also, the essential oils are also actually specific subjects of meditation as well. So to start us off, now that everybody has gathered, and it looks like we have 273 people in attendance now. So welcome again to all of you who have joined while I've been doing my opening comments. And I just want to start us off now by mentioning our good fortune, mentioning that in the broader context of the world, that it is quite remarkable that we actually have the conditions that we can practice meditation, because there are so many conditions everywhere that are not conducive to meditation right now. And we know that. And not just the conditions, but also the state of mind. So it's the external conditions and the internal conditions that are necessary to practice meditation. Because people have conditions that are absolutely intolerable right now, and it is not possible to practice meditation. But there are also a lot of people who have really ideal conditions, but they don't have any internal conditions to practice meditation. And so we have a very interesting conjunction of incredible group karma, good group fortune here, that we have the ability to meet the conditions to practice here for a short time and the interest in doing it. And personally, I think this is a reflection of incredible good fortune. And that if we use this time for spiritual practice, that we are actually making a very substantial and important contribution to the condition of the world. Because really, if there were a lot more people focused on spiritual practice, the world would be very different. And so we are doing something that is very meaningful and very important in maintaining, joining this very ancient river of people who have shared this interest in going more deeply into our connection with ourself, connection with the body, connection with spirit, understanding ourselves. And in my opinion, this is the most meaningful way to use this time. And so thank you for your interest. That is what is most important. All right, let's begin. And as Karen mentioned, make yourselves comfortable. Now we will start with a little bit of instruction just on our posture. And the meditation posture is important because it gives support to the breathing and it gives support to the nervous system. And the really simple way to understand the meditation posture is that it is a balance between tension and relaxation. We don't want to be too relaxed, because then that creates the obstacle of mental dullness. We become too relaxed, the mind becomes very calm, and it becomes very sleepy. But on the other hand, if we become too tense and push ourselves too hard, this really aggravates tension, and it makes the mind very agitated. And these are the two fundamental obstacles to maintaining a smooth meditative flow: mental dullness or mental overstimulation. And so what we try to do then is physically establish a flow of nerve current, a flow of breath that is halfway in between, so that it is partly yang, meaning that we are sitting up. We are using some degree of effort. We're working a little bit to lift the spine up and keep the spine straight. This is the most important thing. And working a little bit to open the chest when we breathe. And if we are fighting tiredness and fatigue, we would like to lift the head up a little bit and keep the eyes open, and that keeps the brain more alert. Or if we are overstimulated and tense, then we would like to lower the eyes, lower the head, relax more. And so this way we navigate through these two fundamental obstacles of meditation, which is that if we find ourselves becoming tense, we can regulate it physiologically. If we find ourselves becoming sleepy, entering into torpor, then we can regulate it physiologically. So this is a little balance between yin and yang. So if you can just check your posture, that would be a good place to start. Have your oils ready also. And let's begin with one of the most basic and fundamental teachings of meditation that integrates perfectly with aromatherapy. And this is from the Anapanasati Sutta, which is a foundation text of Theravada Buddhism. And this is called the Breath Mindfulness Discourse that was taught by Buddha. And this was taught in a particular style, and we will start with this style and then we will modify it. And he was addressing the Sangha, and specifically addressing the monks. And so he starts this discourse by saying, breathing in long. He understands, I breathe in long. Or breathing out long. He understands, I breathe out long. Breathing in short. Now to modify it, we understand, we breathe in short. Or breathing out short, we understand that we breathe out short. So let's just do this for a moment. And what's important in this teaching is we're not modifying anything. The teaching is not make yourself breathe long or short. You just breathe. And you understand that the breath is long or short, slow or fast, deep or shallow. And so it is direct comprehension of what is, as opposed to control of anything. And so now we can go immediately into some modifications that will take us into the purpose of this gathering, the last new moon of the year. And so breathing in, we understand that this is a rejuvenation process. This is oxygenation of the body. And breathing out, this is detoxification of the body. And so rejuvenation and detoxification processes are always going on every moment. And we would like to use this as an entryway into many of the practices that we'll do in the next period of time. We would like to rejuvenate ourselves, which means setting our intentions. And we would like to detoxify ourselves, which means letting go of the past, being complete about things. And so let's just focus on this. And breathing in, we understand, I breathe in rejuvenation. Breathing out, we understand, I breathe out detoxification. We can take that one step further and understand that this cycle is the cycle of life in every moment. We started life with an inhalation. We will end life with an exhalation. And therefore, every inhalation is the beginning of a new cycle. Every exhalation is the end of that cycle. And so now, breathing in, we understand I am starting a new cycle. And that is literally starting a new cycle, literally. Breathing out, we understand I am breathing out the end of that cycle. And so now let's start linking this with this particular astronomical cycle that we are in the end of the year and the beginning of a new year. And let's set the intention that the next year, 2024, will be the year that we let go of the past more than we ever have, and the year that we start living in the present more than we ever have. And so we can also use the breath to study the passage of time, because it is a river that is flowing through us. The breath is a river, time is a river. And so the breath is the flow of the atmospheric prana. And so breathing in, we understand I breathe in prana, or chi, life force. And breathing out, we understand I breathe out prana. Now, prana means that which is always moving. There are many more translations than just life force. Same with chi. And so prana means time. Chi means time. Prana and chi mean the passage of time. And this is the cosmological dimension of prana and chi, is the movement of time, the movement of solar systems, the movement of galaxies. This is prana and chi also, and it is in our breath. And so breathing in, we understand my in-breath is the passing of time. The out-breath is the passing of time. And so already, physiologically, we have just rejuvenated ourselves and come more into present time. Now, pick any oil that you would like, anything at all. Just open the bottle. All the essential oils at some level are going to have something that is cleansing or purifying about it. But you could pick something that is fresh, like a tree oil, a sacred scent, like Palo Santo, a flower, a wood, an earth oil, anything will do. And simply inhale it. And as you breathe it in, we understand I breathe in fragrance. And as we exhale, I breathe out fragrance. And now you can take that cleansing fragrance, which for me, I used Ravinsar here, a cleansing fragrance. And so for Ravansar, anything will do. Inhale directly into the brain, which is where it goes. And exhale directly from the brain. And inhaling into the brain, we understand. I inhale this fragrance to cleanse the past and enter into the present. Exhaling this fragrance, I understand that I exhale this fragrance to cleanse the past and enter into the present. So sit with that for a moment and be aware. Understand that with the inhalation, you are inhaling. The exhalation, we understand we are exhaling. With the inhalation of fragrance, we understand we are inhaling fragrance. With the exhalation, we understand we are exhaling fragrance. With the inhalation of fragrance into the brain, we understand that we are cleansing the past because we are feeding the brain, detoxifying the brain, energizing the brain, clearing the brain, and exhaling fragrance from the brain. We understand that we are purifying the past. And as we do that, we are entering into the present. And so let's set our intentions one more time with this practice, and that is 2024 will be the year that we let go of the past more than ever. It's an ongoing process. It's a challenging ongoing process. But it is synonymous with our spiritual growth, evolution, and maturation. The more we let go of the past, the more we live in the present, the more we are making spiritual progress. That's one of the fundamental aspects that we can watch for. The more we are free of the past, the more we are living in the present, the more we are on the spiritual path of progress. So let's set that intention, being aware of our breath, as one of the keys to doing that. Okay. Take a deep breath and stretch. And I see that a lot of people have joined us since we started that practice, and so welcome to everybody again. Now we are going to do another practice. And this is in the category of practices that I like to do very much. I like all these practices very much. But this is also in the category of practices that I call listening to the heart. And many of you know these practices. But this is a practice that is very fundamental for our well-being. And to integrate an essential oil with this, you would like to think about what offering would you like to make to your heart? What offering would you like to make? If you were to give your heart a gift, what aromatic offering would you give? So I think for a lot of people, it's probably a flower or maybe a sacred scent, maybe sandalwood, something like that. So I have a really nice rose. And so what I am going to do then is that I am going to show you how to do this. This is an anointing practice. And you just have that oil ready. Don't do anything with it yet. Just have it ready. And let me show you the basics of the practice first, and then we will anoint with whatever oil you like. But Let's start our intention first. And let's set our intention that next year, 2024, will be the year that we give ourselves the kind of self-nourishment, self-acknowledgement, self-appreciation, self-support that we need. And this is not selfish. This is actually spiritual progress. To take care of ourselves as the only vehicle that we have to be in the world and to make a positive difference. And I think that everybody knows what it feels like to not be able to give ourselves time, the right kind of nourishment, the kind of attention that we need. And this is very, very fundamental to our healing as well. Emotional healing, healing in our relationships, healing with the past, healing with others. And so the practice is very simple. So make yourself comfortable again and find your pulse. And the way you do this is you can put your thumb on the radial artery of the opposite wrist, or if you would like to do it in the classical medical way, you take 3 fingers and put it on the wrist like this. Don't be overly concerned about these details. If you have low blood pressure, it might be a little difficult to find it, but don't worry about it. What's most important is just to get a sense that there's a pulsation there and bring your attention to this pulsation and be aware that the pulsation is coming from the heart in the chest. And so there are 3 points that we establish as a triangle of self-presence. One is that our attention is coming from the brain. One is that the attention is going to the pulsation at the wrist, and one is that the attention is going to the source of the pulsation in the heart. And so now, establish this triangle of self-awareness and just hold it. In other words, be fully present with yourself. Focus entirely on your own heart. Be fully present with your own heart by listening to the pulsation at the wrist and being aware that you are paying attention to it from the central nervous system in the brain, the center of attention. So brain, pulsation, heartbeat. Be aware that you are being fully present with your own heartbeat. And now that you have established that, then you can open your oil and just take a drop on a fingertip and anoint your pulse as if you are giving your heart a gift of fragrance that will go directly into the heartbeat, into the pulse wave. And you should be able to smell it. And smelling it means that it's coming into the brain as the center of attention, and it's on the pulse. And if you're smelling it, it's also going into the heart. And you can also take the fingertip and you can anoint on the heart center. And so this way you are using a fragrance as a gift to your heart, but the most important gift is not the fragrance. The most important gift is your attention. because we tend to frequently go long periods of time where our attention is on everything but the heart, our own heart. And that causes problems because our heart guides us. Heart is the center of our deeper cognitive functions. And so if the mind is always distracted with other things, then sometimes we get disconnected from the heart. And so let's set the intention that in this coming year, it will be the year that we give our heart more quality attention through presence than we ever have before, and that it is not self-indulgent, it is for the benefit of everyone. So let's practice attention, heartbeat at the wrist, pulsation in the heart, smell the fragrance, give yourself high quality attention and presence for a moment here. And it's really okay to do nothing but this for extended periods of time. As a matter of fact, meditation is very self-indulgent like this. We should actually, in our meditation practice, we should be focusing on our inner self, being present with our inner self. This is just a very direct way of doing it. And we may think about what this means energetically and feel what it means energetically. So many people in this group, I imagine, are caregivers, caretakers, therapists, professionally or not. Maybe it's just a family member. And you know, we all know that many times the only thing we can give and the best thing we can give is simply being present with that person. And we also know that if we are present, fully present with that person, that this guides us emotionally in appropriate responses, what to say, how to be supportive. It's really the only thing that we can give people sometimes. And so we know that being fully present for somebody is really a form of love. And that's really the essence of relationships, is presence. And so now let's give that to ourselves for one more moment here. We establish a triangle from the center of attention in the brain to the pulsation at the heartbeat to the heart in the chest pulsating. And we set the intention that this coming year, we are going to nourish ourselves more than ever because we're going to need that more than ever. Okay, take a deep breath, stretch, move around just a little bit. So this first series of practices addresses one of the most fundamental things that I am seeing more and more that we need, and that is that we need to have spiritual practice that is relevant to what's happening in the world. It needs to be engaged spiritual practice. And it needs to be engaged in the sense that we are doing these practices so that we can be in the world in a better state of mind. And so really, applied spiritual practice here means supporting our health, physical health and mental health, emotional, mental, spiritual health. And so there's several more of these practices that are along these lines in different ways, just different ways of thinking about this. And for this practice, I would like to suggest that you use a cooling oil. And floral oils are very nice for cooling. And also sandalwood, again, is very nice. So a cooling oil. And let's set our intention that this coming year will be the year that we attain more coolness of mind than ever before, more tranquility of mind than ever before. And that this coolness and tranquility of mind will be manifest in our actions. And specifically, we will link this practice to our speech. And so let's set the intention that we will not participate with the inflammatory rhetoric that is increasing everywhere. And this is a huge contribution that we can make to society because people's minds are on fire. And so let's help them by cooling our mind. And it's interesting because we see, if we look at collective mental health through the lens of spirituality and also classical Asian medicine and many different lenses, we see that there's a tremendous amount of what we could call rajasic energy, which means fiery, anger, hostility, rage, violence. All these things are increasing. And this is a hot energy. This is an inflammatory, toxic energy in the mind. And it's interesting that the world is getting hotter and hotter. And so both things are happening, and it might be that the increasing heat collectively in human consciousness is contributing to the heating of the world, but it's also probable that the increasing heat of the world is also inflaming people's minds collectively. Now, this is not a new problem. This is something that humans have had to deal with forever. And at the same time, it's something that we must now deal with in our lifetime in a contemporary form. And all that really matters is that we cool things down. And if we cool things down, it will give us more wisdom about how to navigate through it and how to be supportive and how to solve the problems. And so cooling the mind is basically increasing sattvic consciousness. And sattvic consciousness overcomes rajasic consciousness. And we have great fortune that we can actually think about this, some 300 of us right now. Think about actually collectively cooling our mind, that we can cool the collective consciousness a little bit from inside our own brain. And so let's do this. And then as we go through this cooling process, we can also link it to our speech. And we can also link it to our ears because we are hearing a lot, and that's bothering our brains. So let's start with anointing ourselves. I will use sandalwood. So take a little sandalwood or take one of your floral oils, just take a little bit on the fingertip. And now anoint your forehead. So this is referred to as the brow chakra, the sixth chakra, the ajna chakra. But what's really interesting, and then smell it. But what's really interesting is that it's the frontal lobe. And the frontal lobe is actually the place neurologically that gives us the qualities and the powers of the heart chakra. It is the frontal lobe that helps us to control these impulses of anger. It is the frontal lobe that helps us to control all emotional impulses and gives us emotional intelligence and empathy and sensitivity to others. Neurologically, the heart chakra is in the front of the brain. And so anoint yourself on the frontal lobe, inhale this, and you can also touch the heart center. And so now let's do a little practice. Just take that oil that you've been anointing yourself with and breathe it. Be aware that it is a cooling oil. Breathe that cooling oil into the brain and feel that it is nourishing the frontal lobe specifically, and that is developing the qualities of spiritual maturity, emotional maturity, emotional intelligence. And so this cooling effect is going in through the olfactory system to the brain. You can touch it on the forehead. And just imagine that it is spreading a very clear, cool, sattvic consciousness into the central nervous system, that the fragrance is supporting that. And then touch the heart and be aware that there is this link between the frontal lobe and the heart. And we are synchronizing frontal lobe and heart. And we are cooling the entire body. The entire nervous system is becoming calmer. Feel that happening from the fragrance, flower fragrance, whatever fragrance was cooling for you. Feel that the body is becoming cooler. Feel that the nervous system is relaxing. Feel that the heart and the mind, the brain, frontal lobe, and heart are synchronizing. And feel that some 300 of us are all doing this together. We are all synchronizing our hearts and brains. And we are cooling a little bit of this collective heat. And now take the oil that is still on the fingertips and touch it to the throat. And so now we have anointed the three primary centers of tantric Buddhist practice, Vajrayana practice. Om, enlightened body at the forehead. Ah, enlightened speech at the throat. Hum, enlightened mind in the heart. And we are using a cooling oil to cultivate sattvic awareness, sattvic consciousness. And we are synchronizing these three centers. So smell the oil, breathe it into the frontal lobe, feel that that is connecting with the heart, and then connect it with the throat. And what this means is that we are setting the intention that in this coming year, that our speech will be the reflection of fullness in the mind. So feel all three of these centers cooling and synchronized. And now, take that oil that's still there and touch it to your ears. You can just put a little bit on your earlobe, both the ears. And this is just a little psychic protection, a little reminder that the trigger for the inflamed mind comes through hearing frequently. And that we will also set the intention that we will be mindful, we will protect our mind with mindfulness from inflammatory speech that is all around us. And so now let's put all this together, close eyes, relax, feel the frontal lobe cooling, feel the heart chakra synchronized, feel the throat synchronized, and the expression of fullness of the mind in our speech, and feel that we have some protection in the ears against sound coming in, which is the opposite of sound going out. So we are protecting ourselves from inflammatory speech, both inwardly and outwardly, flowing in and flowing out. And set the intention that this will be one of our collective goals for this coming year, that we will become a group of people who practice wisdom in our speech. Okay, take a deep breath and stretch. All right, so let's continue. And now for this one, you may also have a kind of sacred scent, a spiritual scent. It could be something like frankincense, it could be Palo Santo, could be sandalwood, could be rose, it could be anything you like. And it is for the crown chakra. Now, the basis of this practice is something that is very, very old. And it is a fundamental assumption that has always been there in spiritual teachings everywhere. And this fundamental assumption, in my opinion, is not fully appreciated now. Because we are now in the age of meditation apps where we can get 5-minute meditation fix. And that is good that we can do that. But it raises some interesting questions about what is the purpose of spiritual practice. And there are therapeutic benefits to meditation and to yoga, and they can help us cope with the condition of the world. It can be extremely valuable for our healing and for our happiness and for many things, but it raises the question of, is that it? Is that the purpose of spiritual practice, is therapy? And the answer classically has been no. That is not why we do these things. Those are side effects. The answer has to be understood in the cultural context of these practices. And that is that people took these practices as life or death endeavors because they were confronted with impermanence all around them all the time. And this is the basis of so many practices, is to confront the fragile nature of our existence. And for some people, they were told, you must go sit in the charnel ground. You must watch the bodies going into the funeral pyre to break your attachment to this world. You must understand that you're next. Your body is going into the fire next. And so people did these practices against that backdrop of impermanence that was immediate and very aware. And I think this is a fundamental lesson for all of us, that we are now being confronted more and more with the urgency of doing spiritual practice that is truly transformative and transcendent. It is not for therapy. It's for true spiritual accomplishment. Now, in thinking about this and considering its implications, I have come to an interesting kind of realization, and that is that if our goal in this lifetime is truly deep spiritual practice, that changes our relationship to the world in a fundamental way. And it's paradoxical because it allows us to actually feel more freedom from the world. The world is no longer our concern. And at the same time, it makes us a much more positive, dynamic person, people in the world. And so this has to do with cooling the mind also. And this has to do with basically changing our relationship to the suffering of the world. And this is where the Bodhisattva ideal came in, is that we are doing spiritual practice for the good of the world. Okay. And so let's set our intention that the next year will be the year that we understand even more than we have up to now. And I know that we all have some degree of awareness of this. Maybe some of you are well established in this, that we have more understanding than ever that there's no ultimate solution to samsara except enlightenment. And so this is a great reminder. This time is a great reminder. And it may come to pass that there is a collective epiphany that, oh, this is it. Just as there is an individual epiphany that happens to everyone at some point. And when that epiphany happens that, oh, life is short and the time remaining is not that much, then profound spiritual practice can happen. And so this is all based on a fundamental question, which is, well, what is a spiritual goal? What is this ultimate transcendence? What is this moksha, this liberation, this emancipation, this illumination, this self-realization? What is it? And we may not know. We may not understand that. We may not have a clear idea. It may be all muddled because of all kinds of cultural influences. But that doesn't matter. What matters is that we set the intention that next year that we're going to understand more than ever that the only solution to samsara is our spiritual cultivation, whatever that means to us. And we don't have to know what it means. All right, too much talking. Let's practice. So for this, have your oil ready, and we are going to anoint our crown chakra. And so make yourselves comfortable again. Put a little drop on a fingertip, but don't apply it yet. And relax, balancing the yin and yang of the body posture. And now, bring the attention fully to the body. And be aware that you have awareness of the body. Be aware that awareness of the body is arising in consciousness. But close eyes and be aware that the sensation of having a body is arising in consciousness. And that means that the body is in our consciousness. The body is arising in our consciousness. And sometimes the mind is there and sometimes it isn't. Sometimes the awareness of the body is there in consciousness, and sometimes it isn't. What that means is that the body comes and goes. And what it means is that ultimately the body is not entirely just an external physical thing. The body is actually part of our consciousness, created by our consciousness. Now that means that at this moment, that the mind and the body are together. The flow of the mind, the flow of the attention, the flow of consciousness, the flow of awareness of the body, and the body are arising together. And so this is the interface between mind and matter. When we are aware of the body, and we are aware that it is arising in consciousness, then this is the interface between mind and matter. Now, in that interface between mind and matter, this is called the prana body. This is a body of energy. And so now just imagine that this interface between mind and matter is partly mind, partly matter, but it's being held together by prana, which is partly breath and partly nervous system. And now, to get really tantric with all of this, imagine that the body is just empty space. And it's empty space because it is neither mind or matter, it's energy. And so now we understand that we have entered into the prana body. So just hold the attention there where mind meets matter, where the experience, the sensation of the body arises in consciousness, and be aware that this is being held together by breath and the nervous system. And imagine that this body is just empty. It is just prana. It is just light. And now imagine that through the core of this luminous empty body where mind meets matter, there is a thin reed that starts at the perineum, runs through the center of the body, not the spine. That's the modern version. The old ancient version was that the core channel, the sushumna, ran right through the center of the body, from the perineum to the aperture at the top of the head. And just imagine that it is hollow, like a reed. And now, take the finger with the oil on it and touch the aperture and make contact with that central channel in the luminous body. And just hold your attention there for a moment. Just be aware. This is mind and matter. This is where mind and matter meet. Mind and matter meet where the prana is flowing. Mind and matter are held together with breath and nervous system. And this prana body is empty. It is insubstantial. And yet we can work within it. And the work we are doing now is we are creating a central channel. And we are anointing the top opening of that central channel. And we are making that central channel very luminous. And we are not doing this because we're going to do tantric practice. We're going to do this to remind ourselves that there is an entire universe inside of us that is waiting to be discovered and developed through spiritual practice. And if we keep coming back to this, it will change our relationship to the world, and it will help us understand the world, and it will help us relate to the world, and it will help us transcend the world. Okay, you can rest arm, keep eyes closed, feel the sensations of the body arising in consciousness. Be aware that the body is actually arising in consciousness. And sometimes consciousness is in the body and sometimes it isn't. And therefore, sometimes the body exists in our consciousness and sometimes it doesn't. But in this interface between mind and matter, this is where, for over 1,000 years, one of the most revolutionary, radical realizations has been practiced. And that is, there is this body of light, and this is where we can discover our inherent enlightened nature. And so, again, just touch the top of the head and activate a very quick visualization that the body is just made out of light and there is a thin reed, luminous thin reed that runs from the perineum straight through the core to the top, and just use this as a centering device. center yourself in what's called the Vajra body. Center yourself in the Vajra body. Okay. Rest your arm, take a deep breath. Okay, so now let's set another intention here. And for this, I think you would like to use frankincense. If you have it, and there's a particular reason for that, and that's because frankincense is golden. It's a gold resin, and it is a golden colored oil. And we're going to do a practice now visualizing gold bodies. And this is in the category that we could call the wish-fulfilling gem practices. And these are practices that are based on bringing the inside of who we are into manifestation on the outside. And so let's set our intention that this coming year will be the year that we manifest more of what is inside into the outer world than ever before. And that implies that we will also be supporting our health and happiness. Because this process of bringing into manifestation that which wants to be created is actually a fundamental aspect of our mental and physical health. And when it is blocked, it causes illness. And illness causes obstacles to its manifestation. And so therefore, what we want to think about then is, where does the inside come from? How does it end up on the outside? And there are many kinds of teachings about this. It's related to our vitality. It's related to the red and white essences of our sexual rejuvenation. It's related to the ojas, the essence of the heart. It's related to our immune system. It's related to the prana body. It's related to many, many different aspects of who we are energetically. But I'll just show you one practice. Some of you have met this. And this is just a way of understanding that what is inside is actually connected to what is outside all the time. And this is a very interesting aspect of understanding this term wish-fulfilling gem, because the wish-fulfilling gem is actually that which is translating our internal process into manifestation all the time. Okay, now, when we talk about manifestation, we tend to think about it in kind of narrow terms, that I want to get this, and I want that, and I want this synchronicity, and I want this kind of magical thing to happen. But actually, the process is magical, and it's happening all the time. And so therefore, what we are really looking at in this practice is we are looking at these 5 levels of our own consciousness. And so let's have a frankincense. If you have it, that's a very nice one to do with this. And just have it ready. Close eyes and relax. And go back to this practice of just dissolving the solidity of the body in the mind. Just let the body dissolve. And now imagine the heart center. in the chest, an empty space. And now imagine that in that there is a microscopic dot of pure life force, the size of an atom, and it is gold. And that represents the essence of your being, consciousness, enlightened, Buddha nature, self. Now you can open the frankincense and breathe it in. Breathe it into the heart center and make that little atom of energy, that little bindu, as they say, that little dot of energy, vibrant, very vibrant. And that represents everything that would like to come into creation that is inside of us. That represents our enlightened nature that would like to express itself in all kinds of ways, infinite ways that we would like to express ourselves. Now, imagine that you can see the heart itself. And imagine that the heart is actually golden, radiant. And to support that visualization, inhale a little frankincense directly into the heart and imagine that it helps to make the heart golden and radiant. And this is one of the fundamental forces that is necessary to manifest who we are in the world, is we must have strong radiance in the heart. Shen in Chinese medicine, luminosity of spirit must be strong. And if it is damaged, it makes it very difficult to manifest anything. And so now visualize the heart pumping, golden color, radiating light, and inside a golden atom of our pure nature and all of its infinite potential to express itself. And now visualize and transform the physical body into a golden body of light, empty, luminous, golden, radiant. And to support that, inhale a little frankincense. Just transform the body into golden light. These are fundamental practices in Tantra. Buddhist Tantra, Hindu Tantra, Taoist Tantra. Transforming the body is fundamental. And so now, imagine that these three golden levels are all existing simultaneously. The body is empty, luminous gold, radiant. Inside the heart is pumping, radiant gold. Inside is the atom of pure awareness, pure potential, radiant gold energy. And now visualize the aura, the radiance, the luminosity of the body around the body. And inhale some frankincense to strengthen that visualization. And so now there are four bodies of gold: an atom, heart pumping, physical body, luminous aura, All of these are radiant. All of these are aspects of the power to manifest. And they are all synchronized. They are all layers of the same thing. And so now, final transformation, final alchemical internal transformation is visualize the world as a golden mandala. And this is also a fundamental tantric teaching. Just visualize that the world is a golden celestial realm of divinity. Breathe the frankincense in. And so now we have 5 golden bodies. We have changed our ordinary perception of the physical body, and we have actually focused on 5 aspects of our own consciousness that are always there. And we've energized them with visualization and with fragrance. And so now, all 5. The outer world is the golden realm of divinity. The luminosity of the aura is golden, radiant, spiritual power. The body is radiant, golden energy of life force. The heart is a golden container of radiance. And inside there is an atom representing our enlightened nature and all of its potentiality. Now, we don't have to do anything other than be aware that these 5 layers are all inside our own mind. These 5 layers are always happening simultaneously. These 5 layers are how manifestation works. The inside becomes radiated to the outside, and the outside reflects the inside. So these are all just layers of radiant energy that come from our thoughts, comes from our feelings, radiates outward, becomes form. And this is the wish-fulfilling gem that we have all the time. Our mind is the wish-fulfilling gem. Our heart is the wish-fulfilling gem. Our Buddha nature, our enlightened nature, our self-realization nature, whatever we want to call it, God is the wish-fulfilling gem that is inside of us. The body is the wish-fulfilling gem. The heart is the wish-fulfilling gem. The luminous energy around us is the wish-fulfilling gem, and the outer world is the wish-fulfilling gem. And if we keep coming back to that awareness over and over again and strengthen it in our meditation, make it increasingly bright and radiant, then very interesting, unexpected, pleasant, sattvic synchronicities will start to happen. And so we can set the intention that in the coming year, that we are going to experience more miraculous, magical manifestations of who we are than ever before. All right, take a deep breath and stretch. And there is so much more, and I'm just getting warmed up, but our time is coming to a close here, and I think this is sufficient. And so let's conclude. And with that, what I would like to say is, I don't think we're going to have time to really delve into these many, many comments here. Thank you on the chat. So many nice comments of appreciation. Thank you very much. This is obviously not a question and answer type of format.